Good afternoon, everybody. This is in regards to we'll be entering into the public hearing soon. But first, let me start by the city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory, upon which we gather with gratitude. But before we begin today, I just have a couple of items of note before we get into the public hearing, if I may. Today marks the funeral for RCMP Officer Constable Rick O'Brien, killed in the line of duty on September 22nd. I would like to take this opportunity to honor Constable O'Brien, to extend our condolences to his family, friends, and colleagues, and also to thank our local RCMP, fire department, and other first responders for protecting and serving our community each and every day. Their dedication and sacrifice does not go unnoticed. Secondly, the city of Parksville and the Nature Trust of British Columbia have officially announced plans to conserve an important property along the Gwilixsa, known as Englishman River as well, in perpetuity at 130 Shelley Road. We've entered into an agreement to cooperate on the completion of a community pathway designed to protect ecologically and culturally significant areas. This community pathway will extend from the Parksville Community Park right through alongside the estuary and making its way to the Englishman River at the other end and Shelley Road. So this is a great announcement, and we're very proud to be doing this. And we've been working on this for a number of years. Councillor Fraz has been here for a while and been a part and parcel of this, even in previous councils, as well as this council making it come to fruition. So it's really good news to protection of this valuable estuary land and working in cooperation with Nature Trust and First Nations. Also, finally, I would like to recognize that October is Community Inclusion Month. Exclusion. Let's start that again. Finally, I would like to recognize that October is Community Inclusion Month, an opportunity to recognize the hard work of individuals, families, and community members who create inclusive communities and opportunities for all British Columbians with developmental disabilities. Locally, Inclusion Parksville offers numerous and valuable programs and marks Community Inclusion Month, as well as other programs located within our city core. Many events are happening this month that will engage the public, building a stronger and more inclusive community. These are the people that are out there delivering your papers right now, folks. These are the people that are out there keeping our streets clean and so forth. They have different contracts with different organizations. These are members of our community. So at this time, we would just want to recognize the important contribution that they make to our community itself. Thank you. I'd like to call the public hearing for Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 to order. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act to consider the proposed and zoning and development amendment bylaw 2023 number 200.146. Please note that the public hearing for zoning and development amendment bylaw number 2022 number 2000.137 at 413 Wembley Road had to be removed from this agenda and will be rescheduled to a later date. A revised notice of public hearing will be issued for anyone interested in this application. So today we're just looking at bylaw 2023 number 2000.146. At this public hearing, any person present who believes that his or her interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matters contained in the proposed bylaw. However, it is important that all who speak at this public hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those of you who wish to speak concerning this proposed bylaw should, at the appropriate time, commence your address to the council and public hearing by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. It should be noted this public hearing is being recorded and web streamed live, and the recording will be posted to the website. The main function of council members is to listen to the views of the public. It is not a function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems their interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. If you wish to provide a written submission to be included in the record of the public hearing, you must hand in that submission to the corporate officer prior to the close of that part of the public hearing dealing with the bylaw you're speaking to. Once that part of the public hearing has been adjourned, council is not able to receive any further information from the public on that matter. The corporate officer at this time is off to the side, my left, your right. There's no significance in that, left or right, my left. So there you go. So carrying on. So during the public hearing, people sometimes become enthusiastic or emotional. And regardless of whether you favor or oppose any particular application or argument, please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion. Restraint enables others whose views may or may not coincide with your own to exercise their rights to express their views, and enables all views expressed to be heard in a setting that is impartial as possible. I will now ask the Deputy Corporate Officer to introduce the only item on the agenda, bylaw 200.146. Mrs. Ross.
Thank you, Mayor O'Brien. This afternoon, there is one item on the agenda, namely Zoning and Development Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2000.146. In general terms, the purpose of the proposed amendment is to facilitate residential occupancy on a portion of the first floor of a mixed commercial multi-unit residential building through a site-specific text amendment to the downtown commercial C3 zone at 187 Bagshaw Street, legally described as Lot A, District Lot 4, the Noose District, Plan EPP 119243. Hard copies of the staff reports and related information respecting the subject amendment bylaw have been available for public examination online and at City Hall, located at 100 Jensen Avenue East in the Parksville Civic and Technology Center since September 7th, 2023. As of 10 a.m. on Wednesday, October 4th, no items of correspondence have been received regarding this application.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. So to be clear, the item up for discussion on the public hearing is 187 Bagshaw Street. Thank you. I'd like to invite anyone who'd like to speak to come forward to the microphone and give their name and civic address for the record. Calling once. Come forth to the microphone, please, if you would, and identify yourself and your address, please. Your business address would be appropriate at this time, Clayton. Yeah. The one with the little, you got it. You're on. Thanks, Clayton.
Okay. I'd just like to speak. I have properties across 164 Bagshaw, 176. My name's Clayton Baker, sorry. And also 206. I'm also partners in the Thrifty Mall. So basically we frame that property.
Yes.
Although not knowing much about it, except to say, I kind of concerned that any property that on the first floor is not commercial. I was kind of hoping that area would develop to more central place for commercial activity. And I think any additional residential on the first floor, it sort of diminishes the downtown core as a whole a bit on the long term. And I think it's the wrong direction for us to be going. So that's my objections. I hope to develop across the street eventually too, and it will be all commercial on the main floor.
Well, so thanks for that information, Clayton. Yeah, thank you for your comments at this time. Thank you. Yes, next.
Hello, I'm Chris Baker, property owner of 190 and 194 Corfield, the properties that immediately back onto the subject property, and a future development property as well for commercial. Since we opened our business 17 years ago, I've heard about the ring road being pushed through Jensen. I've heard about the downtown core being strengthened. We pay additional fees for all of our properties into the BIA to improve the downtown core. My concern is that in order to have a downtown core, we need a walkable downtown core, which means a consistent commercial properties. You've got the Thrifty Center next door, which is one of the strongest commercial districts in the entire community. You've got the Ring Road pushing through, which this property directly borders on. And traditionally, council has said that we want to improve the area while rezoning outside of the commercial district, and now looking at rezoning the commercial district as residential. If you tried to build a house in Woodgrove Mall or rent a spot for your house, they'd laugh at you because commercials thrives off of having other commercial beside it. Building pockets of residential in our downtown core hurts all of the other downtown core. So moving forward, if we want to look at our community and we want to wonder why our downtown core isn't thriving, we need to look at decisions that are being made today. These are the decisions that will push us forward successfully or unsuccessfully in the future. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else have comment for the first time? For second time, anyone who would like to speak to come forward? For a third and final time, anyone who would like to speak, please come forward at this time. I'd like to ask for a motion at this time to receive any correspondence. Ms. Ross, you concluded there was no correspondence, so we will bypass that. Ask for a motion now to terminate the public hearing for zoning and development amendment bylaw 2023 number 200.146. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? Thank you. That is unanimous. That is carried. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Basically, once again, I just have to reiterate that once the public hearing is going to be adjourned, as it is right now, council cannot entertain further submissions or correspondence from the public on the proposed bylaws. I'd like to have a mover and a seconder to call for adjournment of the public hearing. Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Grant. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. And now welcome to the October 4th regular meeting of Parksville Council. The city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. We have the consent agenda enclosed in your agenda package, the minutes of the public hearing held September 6th, the minutes of the council meeting held September 6th, 2023, the minutes of the special committee of the whole meeting held September 25th, 2023, and approval of the council meeting agenda. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Gorin, second by Councillor Martin. Are there any errors or omissions? None. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. Today we have 3 delegations. We'll begin with the RDN, the Regional District of Nanaimo, the Regional Parks and Trails Service. Today we have a presentation by Mr. T. Osborne and R. Dakin and A. Gore regarding the RDN Regional Parks and Trails Service. You have 10 minutes for the presentation. Tom, thank you very much for showing up here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me through the mayor and council. It's great to be here today. We're here today. We were last here. Is that me? Oh, okay.
Weed eater.
Okay. Almost ready for hearing aids. Okay, sounds good. We were here a few months ago just speaking about the Northern Rec Services arrangement. And at the time I was asked if we can come and present a little bit more information on regional parks and that's what we're here for today. As noticed, I'm joined today by our CEO, Doug Holmes. He'll be watching the proceedings here today. And then fellow presenters will be Amy Gore, our superintendent, our parks planning and research and development, and Rick Dakin, our manager of park services. Also in the room is Sean Riley. He's our parkland administrator, oversees some of our land management properties. So with that, I'd like to do an overview within the time period provided to us. And is there a particular button? Sorry. Is it? There we go. Yeah, got it. Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. This provides an overview of the various aspects that we do within the RDM Park Services, and I'll break that down a little bit later. But when we talk about RDM Park Services, there's sort of two aspects. There's community parks and regional parks, and they have different people that we serve and throughout the regional district. But you can see in this chart alone, this is sort of what the department does, everything from campground operations to park planning to volunteer stewardship management, land conservation management and acquisitions, and development of capital projects that we'll be delving in shortly here. So there is the two sides of the department, parks planning, that's tied to the research and development, capital project delivery and engagement as we work through the process. And then on the parks operations side, that's the boots on the ground, the trucks in the field. And they do everything from park inspections, obviously trail maintenance throughout the district, throughout the regional district, and risk assessments throughout the regional district as well too. So this is where I'll kind of break down a little bit for council what is an RDM park service as we work through this, but there is two aspects of it. So when we talk about regional parks, that are parks that is funded by the whole region. That means the 4 member municipalities and the 7 electoral areas. So everyone in the regional district funds a regional park service, and that's collected by way of taxation. Then in the context of the RDM, when we speak about community parks, we're actually the provider of parks in the rural areas. So everything outside of the 4 municipalities. And that's from electoral area A, from Cedar to Gabriola, all the way up to Bowser. And you can see in the context of that, we have 9 regional natural areas, 10 regional trails in the regional system, 2 campgrounds, 1 on Gabriola, 1 at Horn Lake, and 1 regional conservation area very close to here as well too. Then when you move into the community parks, there's about 175 community parks and 38 community trails. So it's quite a system. And if you know the regional district, some of these electoral areas are a population of 8,000 plus population kind of thing. So almost they are centered, the RDM is very urbanized, and we're kind of a unique regional district for having such urbanized rural areas in this case. So we're the provider of that. We like to show this chart just to show where are the parks, but where are other land holdings and parkland holdings in a regional district. And you can see here, this is the RDN as a whole with our 4 municipalities and the 7 electoral areas. And it kind of breaks down. So where are the protected areas? It's often a question that's asked, you know, how much is protected in the region? And it shows where that is and who's overseeing that. So in the case of the regional district, 27% of the oversight of parkland is through the regional district under the regional parks portfolio, another 10.6 under community parks. So roughly around 30% of all holdings is actually managed by the regional district Parks Division and the team that you see here today for the most part. You can see at a provincial level, it's 22% for scale. So we know our provincial parks very well and love them, everything from Rat River Beach all the way to Hemer in the south and carrying forward kind of thing. So it's a good chart to be aware of. And then we won't drill into the community today, but you can see those little dots. And those are all the community parks throughout the regional district on Gabriola, in the south and in the north. So that's all lands that we're responsible for. I won't delve too much onto this, but it basically gives you an idea, you know, how is parkland at a regional level brought on board versus the community. And really at a regional, we're doing through license leases and acquisition on a whole scale. And then in the community parks, it's very much like a municipal system. Parks are either secured by cash, but more often brought on at time of subdivision when the area is brought on board. And again, each one of those community parks, we collect taxes for that area. So if you're in area A and you're having a property that's managed in area A or Cedar, parcel is not paying for that park, nor is another electoral area kind of thing. So it's like its own service, independent service area. So we have 8 service areas set up in that. Now the staff, we have our feet and hands all over the place, and we divide up our time accordingly, and it's funded according that way. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of the makeup there. one of the last slides that I have before I hand it over to Miss Amy Gore, but it just sort of speaks to the growth of the park system. It's relatively young. Regional districts go back to about 1968, 69 when they were created. The park system was always a power, but wasn't really authorized or put into play in this regional district until about 1985 and really got going in 1990 and of course into 2000s. So when you're in some of the more established regional districts, like a Capital Regional District or Metro Vancouver, you're going to see some of those date right back to 1960s, for example, whereas the boots on the ground really got going here just in the late 90s into 2000. That sort of speaks to the various lands that were brought on board. So with that, now for the fun stuff, and it won't be with me, Ms. Gore will come up and give you a little quick tour of our regional park system, and then Rick Dakin will follow up after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So the following slides, I'll just provide a really brief overview of the regional parks and trail system. So I'm going to start in the north and work my way down, just highlighting key projects that are either underway or have been recently completed. So starting in the north, in Area H, we have Horn Lake Regional Park. So this is one of our 2 regional campgrounds. We also have Lighthouse Country Regional Trail. So this is a very popular walking trail. It has a north and south loop. South loop is one of our fully accessible trails. So this is suitable for people in wheelchairs, visually impaired. We also have the Big Qualicum River Regional Park or Regional Trail. So this starts at the Big Qualicum Hatchery and follows the river along the hatchery's gravel service road. So moving down to Area H, we have Little Qualicum River Estuary. So this is RDN's only regional conservation area. Familiar to you guys, we have the Parksville Qualicum Beach Links and the Top Bridge Regional Trail, which provides a key connection between Raft River Beach Provincial Park and the Top Bridge Crossing. Also in Area H, we have the popular Englishman River Regional Park. So moving further, Area F contains the primarily undeveloped Little Qualicum River Regional Park and the Coombs to Parksville Rail Trail. The north part of Area C contains Arrowsmith CPR Trail and Mount Arrowsmith Massive Regional Park. Moving over to Area E, have the beautiful oceanfront parks, Beachcomber and Moorcock Regional Park. And Area C contains Benson Creek Falls Regional Park, which received several upgrades over the past 2 years. These have improved user access and safety. So among these upgrades, we have a new paved parking lot on Weagles Road, which is the primary access to Ammonite Falls. We have several trail improvements within the ravine. You see one of the pictures there. We have a new bridge that crosses Benson Creek. And the highlight is the viewing platform and stairs at Ammonite Falls. So Area C also contains Mount Benson Regional Park and Benson View Regional Trail, which is the trail from the Mount Benson parking lot up to the regional park. Also last year, something to highlight, the RDN acquired over 75 hectares of land for park expansion from Mosaic Forest Management. So now Mount Benson Regional Park has over 290 hectares of forested land along the upper northeast slopes of Mount Benson. This park will undergo a management plan in 2024. So moving over to Area B, Gabriola. So this contains Coates Marsh Regional Park and Descanso Bay Regional Park, which is the second regional campground. And finally, in Area A, we have Nanaimo River Regional Park, the Trans-Canada Trail, which links Harewood Mines Road to Timberlands Road, and the Morden Colliery Regional Trail. So for the Morden Colliery Regional Trail, we just completed a feasibility study on the cost and constructability of a bridge crossing over the Nanaimo River, and this will inform the detailed design phase. So I'll now pass it over to Rick to highlight the Parks Division vision and goals over the next 10 years.
Thank you, Ms. Gore. This is where we challenge your speed reading.
Okay, I'll be as quick as possible. Thanks, Tom and Amy. So as part of the Parks and Trails strategy that was developed and finished in September of 2022, a vision was created. And that vision established that regional and community parks and trails in the RDN provide welcoming and diverse opportunities for people of all ages and abilities to recreate and connect with nature and each other. And through strong local partnerships and collaboration with First Nations, natural areas are recognized for their cultural importance and preserved for ecosystem conservation and climate change mitigation. And finally, regional and community parks and trails in the RDN support the health and well-being of all residents in the region, which is super important. So we have 7 goals from our trails, parks and trails strategy, and they are: goal number 1, strengthen partnerships with First Nation governments, other governments such as City of Parksville, landowners, and not-for-profit agencies. Number 2, collaborate with First Nations on park planning and design. Number 3, identify and preserve important natural areas through parkland acquisition, which is super important right now. Protect and enhance natural parkland areas through management and restoration. Number 5, provide parks and trails with well-maintained and diverse amenities. Number 6, enhance and develop trail connections. And number 7, increase volunteering, learning, and programming within our park system. So those are our 7 main goals, and they all have action items, which I don't have time to get into, but we'll move to the final slide, which is all about our board strategic plan. And our number 1 goal is to accelerate the acquisition of regional parkland to secure and steward natural areas with high conservation and recreation values. And why is that important? Because parks and protected areas contribute to community well-being and help mitigate the impacts of climate change, increasing costs and high demand for land in the region. And that requires that the regional district proactively identify strategic park and conservation lands that are in position to acquire in a timely manner when opportunities arise. And that's our presentation. And thank you so much for having us here today.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I think I've checked out all of your parks, but I do have to go back to Benson Creek to check out Ammonite Falls now because new stairs apparently. So I'll check that out. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Council, do we have any questions for the delegation? Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to our delegation, somebody. I'm just curious, I was pleased to see you have mentioned a partnership with various organizations, including nonprofits. I was wondering if you have existing ongoing relations with MABRE, the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere Region. And also I wondered if there's a connection with NALT and if there are others that perhaps you could speak to briefly.
Sure. Yeah, due to the time provided for us, we could go through each one of the properties and who actually we're aligned with on almost all of them. So in regards to working with the land trust, for example, we're very close with Ducks Unlimited. We co-own land with them. The Nature Trust of BC also co-own property with them, Englishman River being one of those. NALT was a major funder for Mount Benson. And the board actually just at the board meeting last week, they support annually $40,000 going towards NALT, towards MAVRE and the biosphere and so forth. We're very closely at a staff level and the political level with those organizations. One of the community parks of note is like the French Creek Estuary Nature Preserve that was recently secured with the BC Parks Foundation. And there's various local stewardship groups and provincial stewardship groups that come forward to help guide the stewardship plan for that project. So you name it, we work with them across at a national or provincial level. And that's how we're able to leverage the local taxation funds to then align those with land trusts to then secure properties and or manage properties with them.
Okay. Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. And to Mr. Osborne, if you could briefly tell us what is the apportionment model for how is Parksville paying into these regional parks and trails as compared to the recreation Is it any different or is it the same model?
Yeah, through to the chair, to the councillor's question. It is a different apportionment model. It is done 50% by assessment as 50% population. That is a change in recent years. At one point in time, it was population for maintenance. And then it was a parcel tax for the acquisition component. So if you had a $1 million property, you paid $20. If you had $3 million property, you paid $20. It's now been changed over to 50% population, 50% assessment. And then that's broadened out. The board's decision on that was really uses of parks. It can be population driven, both at a municipal and even electoral basis, because we have smaller and larger electoral areas. As far as the regional system goes as well, obviously, we love to recreate in our back country, and that's where a lot of the lands are that are situated. So everything from Mount Terrace Massif to Englishman River Regional Park to Mount Benson and so forth. So you may be in a small area, but you're having significant urbanized pressure on those parks. That's sort of the population, sort of the governor on that.
Councillor Perez.
Thank you through our mayor to Mr. Osborne. One trail I didn't see on there that was, I thought in Parksville, we had a RDN trail system up by Industrial Way. I was wondering if you could speak to that. I recognize seeing a sign out there before. It was a popular dog walking area. So how come that wasn't in the
Would
presentation?
that be the Top Ridge Regional Trail that you're speaking to?
I'm not sure the name of it, but yeah, off Industrial Way by Tuan Road there.
Yep, no, that's Top Ridge Regional Trail. So that's Ms. Gore was speaking to, it links for Raft Trevor Regional Park up through to Top Ridge Crossing, the community park for Parksville, and we have the regional park at the top. And right now we're working on reconnecting that trail as best possible, and we'll talk
Is
further
that
about
still,
that.
is it an active trail? Like, is it
At this point in time, we've had to close the trail down due to the private landowner removing a section of the trail that there wasn't a license on.
Follow up, go ahead.
Yeah. Is there any other regional parks or trails in Parksville? Like, I'm just curious. That was the only one that I had known of.
Sure,
so-
yeah, no, that actually the parcel of the Coombs Trail is one. So it originates from the Coombs, Spring Hill Park. Goes through the city of Parksville into electoral area G for a brief period of time and into electoral area F. So the main point terminus is from that. The other ones are adjacent or right across adjacent. So obviously Englishman River Regional Park is joined by Top Bridge Crossing. So you literally come across the bridge and you're into a small community park and into that regional park. So it's right on the border of the city of Parksville.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further? I just have a quick question, Ms. Osborne, if I could. What type of participation could look like to convert, say, rails to trails through City of Parksville? Obviously, we have a railway running right to us. And it would be interesting if there could be any RDN cooperation or collaboration with that. Is that a possibility moving forward?
Through to the Worship's question, right now, the RDN, City of Parksville and all the municipalities have an agreement with the ENN or the Island Corridor Foundation to build rail by trail. That's the tool that was used for the Parksville to Coombs Trail. There is some alignment within our overall plans and in our 5-year financial plan at this point in time, and that is linking Englishman River Regional Park underneath the highway, if you will, and then following the water line or being on the ENN or the Parksville's water line around the railroad station. So that is a key connecting point that we're looking at right now. That would then line you up to Spring Hill Park, and it would line you up to take you out to Coombs. And if you really want to go out 20 to 30 or 50 years from now, maybe to Cathedral Grove or even to City of Parksville, that direction kind of thing, all depends on the conversation around the rail line proper.
So just to consolidate there, then, so basically it's in the works that we're looking at connecting all of those under the existing rail to trail agreement.
There's what's unique about that area. There's city infrastructure in that area that you could actually put a trail on, or you also have the tool of using the Island Corridor agreement to also construct rail within that corridor as well. So there's quite a bit of opportunity in that section.
That's good news. Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Osborne. Any further questions, Councillor Gore?
Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. Mr. Osborne, I think previously I asked you when you were presenting about the recreation, about the 30 by 30, protecting 30% of the land within the region. So maybe this is the appropriate time to ask you this question. Just looking at the RDN land base, and I went through your strategic plan just quickly, looks like we've only protected about 3.65% of the land within the RDN. I saw that one of your strategic priorities is land acquisition for conservation. So again, going back to my apportionment model, like will Parksville see some more lands conserved within or close to the city of Parksville? And second part to that question, if I may, is are you aware of the BC Nature MPAP program, the Municipal Protected Areas Program?
Through to the council's question, there's quite a bit of terminology, and we're talking about just at a committee meeting yesterday where the funding source is. So the 30 by 30 is a national aim, and all the trust agencies and combining both what you can preserve at a municipal level, a regional level, it will all be added into that. I'm familiar with the funding programs, but that acronym that you provided, I can't speak to directly. But what I can say is we, as I mentioned to a previous question, we work very closely with the land trust agencies and how they are able to then leverage those dollars and those grant programs that are out there, kind of thing. So I believe did I answer both questions? I just want to check.
If there is any plans within the strategic, the 10-year plan to have some, are you looking at more lands being conserved in our area?
Through to your question, one of the key aspects of our department, and we work very closely with the board, is land acquisition. Very much like today, you may not hear about things until you can announce it. And I think some of the members of council here appreciate the time and energy it takes to make some of these arrangements work, kind of thing. So there is direction for land acquisition. It's like a key priority. I can't speak to specifics though, until you can speak to specifics.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Beal. Got to wrap it up here. We got two other delegations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier in a previous communication, there was some reference to Horn Lake, the regional area, and I understand that there could be a trail that goes, well, there is actually a trail that goes over to Port Alberni. Is that at all in the plans to actually connect those communities through that way? And does that involve some negotiation with private forestry areas?
I'll try to be brief to answer this question because it goes back to 1911. So there is a gazetted route when lands were surveyed over to Port Alberni. One is the route that you know, the Alberni route, and the other one was this other route that was explored. We've surveyed the whole route. We're in the process of registering that route with the province of BC to then take out a stat right away on. So in essence, we've found it. We're letting the province know about it, and then we can then take a permit out on, kind of thing. So the goal is to take you from Horn Lake, well, actually from the river all the way to the Alberni Lake Regional District.
Thank you.
And does that trail follow the one that is in one of the local hiking books, or is it a different trail? Just a yes or no, but.
I couldn't speak to the hiking boot, but the trail proper as gazetted has not been constructed yet. So you're probably bouncing in and out of that route, highly potential. Yep.
Thank you. So thank you very much for your presentation today, Mr. Osborne, Mr. Dakin, and Ms. Gore. Thank you so much. Our next delegation is the Parksville Downtown Business Association, known as the PDBA. An update and request for grant application support. We'll have a presentation today by T. Cooper and T. Frankfurt of the PDBA seeking council approval for the proposed Winter Wonderland to be hosted on Memorial Plaza for a 6-week period in November and December, to seek council support for a year-round light display for Memorial Plaza, and to seek council support for PDBA grant application to engage property owners in the downtown core in a future rejuvenation project for the Parksville Downtown Business Improvement Area. You have 10 minutes for the presentation. Thank you very much.
I'll talk fast.
Good, go for it.
Good afternoon, Mayor O'Brien, councillors, city staff, and the community members, both present here and those joining us online. We are very grateful for this opportunity to come before you to present 3 significant requests that we believe align with the city's strategic goal of nurturing a vibrant downtown. I'm here today with Tammy Frankfurt, our chair, and I am the executive director of the Parksville Downtown Business Association. Also present is our vice chair, Michelle Jones. Parksville Downtown Business Association proudly represents 289 members within the downtown core. However, our commitment to downtown extends far beyond our membership, benefiting not only our member businesses and property owners, but also the entire community of Parksville. We'd like to take this moment to extend our appreciation to City Council for dedicating Memorial Plaza as a sensitive area. This bylaw has not only made us more comfortable in hosting events at Memorial Plaza, but also has significantly enhanced the safety and security of our members and their businesses in the vicinity. Our vision for Memorial Plaza is to collaborate with the City of Parksville to ensure the plaza is a vibrant gathering place for our community. The events we have organized, including those in partnership with the city, have brought a new energy into the area. We have received numerous positive comments from the community expressing their gratitude for seeing this space filled with happy and joyful people. Building upon this successful group effort, we are excited to present 2 additional ideas for Memorial Plaza for your consideration. In July 2020, city staff presented to the Council of the Day a decorative lighting options report that underscored the significance of illuminating the downtown core as a means to attract visitors, enhance the pedestrian experience, and mitigate vandalism and property damage. In line with the recommendations from that report, Parksville Downtown is eager to introduce an innovative visual and audio system to illuminate Memorial Plaza. As you can see in these 2 photos, the lights provide a captivating visual experience. We have superimposed the lights onto this photograph of Memorial Plaza to ensure the lights are out of reach from the individuals below. We plan to raise the existing wire grid by 2 to 3 feet. Our contractor will collaborate closely with the city's engineering team to ensure proper installation. The system has a wide variety of music options that can be programmed to play, causing the colorful lights to respond or dance in harmony with the music. The lights also have the capability to respond to live music performances within the plaza. There is a very large library of seasonal music and lighting themes are available, or lights and music can be tailored to specific events being hosted. Bless you. We are proposing to take on the responsibility of programming the lights and music for the initial 2 years, after which we will collaborate with the city to assess the ongoing maintenance and management of the system. Our second lighting project, also inspired by the decorative lighting options report, aims to transform Memorial Plaza into a winter wonderland from November 24th to January 2nd. Parksville Downtown has a holiday tradition of placing Christmas trees on the rooftops of our businesses, similar to the trees you see on the top right-hand corner. This year, we propose relocating 5 trees along with 2 additional trees to the plaza. We'd also like to add 8 to 10 smaller trees, creating a charming holiday stroll reminiscent of the scene depicted in the top left photo. To enhance the overall experience, we intend to incorporate a selfie frame, a large shining gold star also as a photo opportunity, a Santa's mailbox, and these delightful countdown to Christmas snowmen. Here is a preliminary outline detailing the placement of the holiday decorations. Our plan is to have the trees on the edge of the plaza, retaining open space that can be used for small special events. The tree installations will be overseen by our contractor in close coordination with the city's engineering department. Additionally, we have started discussions with Footprint Security, and we will be developing a security plan for the plaza during this 6-week time frame. We want to emphasize that Memorial Plaza will remain open to the public during this time. We are excited to announce two special events, a grand light up event on November 24th and a fun-filled kids event on December 31st that we are calling Happy Noon Year, complete with a small balloon drop at noon. Our third project involves submitting a grant proposal to the province's Ministry of Jobs, Economic Development and Innovation. This presents a $100,000 opportunity for Parksville Downtown to engage a consultant who can assist us in conducting an economic diversity study and a plan specifically tailored for our downtown area. During the preparation of our grant application, we reviewed several economic development and rejuvenation studies conducted in our area over the past years. Despite the age of some of these reports, we have identified numerous areas that remain relevant today. From our perspective, there are two specific areas of focus for this study. The first study is specifically on our downtown area. Recent observations have revealed 11 vacant storefronts within the downtown core, in addition to several new commercial storefronts that remain unoccupied or not quite ready for leasing. This underscores the urgency of collaborating closely with our property owners and existing businesses to develop a building rejuvenation plan as an integral component of this economic diversity study. One of the reviewed studies emphasized the potential of lifestyle motivated entrepreneurs, individuals who have the flexibility to live and work from anywhere, as a promising avenue for infusing new economic vitality into Parksville. A critical focus in the second phase of our study will involve a thorough exploration of distinct psychographic and demographic segments, leading to an understanding of effective strategies to attract and engage entrepreneurs to the Parksville downtown area by leveraging innovation and technology and ultimately fostering the growth of new businesses. We view the City of Parksville as one of our vital stakeholders and valued community partners. Our shared success in past projects has proven that by collaborating, we can achieve far more than what each of us could accomplish individually. In that spirit, we present three specific requests to the city, which are crucial for the advancement of our projects. Firstly, we respectfully request permission to install the audiovisual system in Memorial Plaza. Timing is crucial for this request. For us to be able to have this system in place for the holiday season, we need to place our order as soon as possible. Secondly, we seek the city's permission to transform Memorial Plaza into a winter wonderland from November 24th to January 2nd. We are certain you can appreciate that this is also a time-sensitive request. Lastly, as part of our grant submission, we are required to present letters of support from our community partners. We sincerely hope that the city will consider providing such a letter to bolster our application. In addition, the grant application necessitates that we demonstrate a commitment to contribute 20% of the $100,000 project cost, an obligation that we are fully prepared to fulfill. Along with the $20,000 contribution, we must also maintain a $30,000 contingency fund. We are ready to allocate $15,000 for this purpose, bringing our total contribution to $35,000. We kindly request that the city consider providing the additional $15,000 for the contingency fund if and when it becomes necessary. We are committed to sound fiscal management of this project with the aim of minimizing the need for your contingency contribution. The submission deadline for this grant is October 30th. I'd like to just take this moment to offer my personal apology for the tight deadlines on these requests. As you know, I am new to Parksville. Staff have been very helpful, but I am still learning my way around the workings of the city. These three initiatives are firmly rooted in the objectives of the Parksville Downtown Business Association, and we are confident that they are closely aligned with the goals of the City of Parksville. We believe that these projects will play a pivotal role in cultivating a robust and diverse economy for Parksville Downtown. We sincerely appreciate the opportunity to present these 3 exciting projects to council today. If you have any questions, we will be more than happy to provide any additional information you require. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation and what I have to say right over. And I really appreciate your enthusiasm. I do. I get that. You know, you're trying to make really positive, effective movements for the downtown, and I appreciate your efforts and thank you for that.
I appreciate your comment.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to open the floor now to questions from council. Councillor Frass, you had your hand up first.
Thank you. Through the mayor to the delegation. You had a pretty clear ask there, $15,000 as a contingency amount. Curious if you could just let me know what's going to happen with that money, and you know, if it's not used, kind of what kind of time frame is that money need to be held for?
Through to you, the mayor, to Councillor Frass. The application is submitted in October and the decision will be made in the spring. I believe we have a year to complete the project. What I'm not clear on, and I can get the information for you, is do we have to hold that money in some sort of trust, or is it just a statement that we have the contingency? I'd have to check into what the requirements are.
Follow up, go ahead. Councillor Frass.
What would you foresee this contingency being used for? Like, why are they requiring $30,000 contingency?
It's part of our risk management. If for some reason costs run over what we expect, or there's some unforeseen challenge that we didn't see coming, that's what the contingency will be used for. Everything within the scope of what I spoke to today is part of the $100,000. So this would be, as I said, risk management.
If I can just ride along on this, Councillor Frass's line of questioning here. The $15,000 for the from the contingency is, to be clear, is this for the year-round lighting, lighting, or the grant application?
For
You
the
have
grant.
3 different proposals here, so
My
I'm
apologies.
trying to
The-
keep, yeah.
Yeah,
so
the grant
for the grant
application.
application.
Yes.
So you're saying risk
Risk management.
risk
Just-
management for the grant application.
Well, we have $100,000 to carry out the project.
Yes,
If there are cost overruns, we need to show that we can manage those costs. The risk would be something that we didn't see coming.
I see. Okay,
Yes.
just for your grant application. Thank you. Councillor Frass, yeah, follow up.
If I may, just one more with that. You mentioned you have the $15,000 for your guys' portion of it now. Is it just that you're short the other 15? You're asking us to partner for it, or would this be as a loan, for example, for the contingency for, you know, future considerations?
I'm just pondering that question. My understanding is that we only come to you for the 15,000 if and when we absolutely needed it. The first 15,000 of that contingency fund would be our funds. So any extreme unforeseen expense that's over 15,000, then we would come to you for that amount.
And I guess the reason why I ask is just as it, you know, if we're there as that safety net to provide that 15,000 in case you needed it, would it be something that then you guys would be able to fundraise for, so on, to then give it back if we were to earmark that money?
I'm just getting clarification from my chair, Mayor O'Brien. Part of the project is showing participation from our partners. And this was a way that we felt we could show participation, asking the least amount from our partners. So could we fundraise? Yes, but in order to show that participation, this was our solution.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to go to Councillor Beal. No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to the delegation. Yes, I would like to echo Mayor O'Brien's comments about the appreciation for the enthusiasm and for a vision for vibrancy in the downtown. And as you're well aware, that is actually in our strategic plan as well. I also appreciate the apology for the short timeline, but I confess that I'm very concerned about that. Frankly, it's October and you're wanting to have something in place on Memorial Plaza for November 24th. So this would be part of a special events process, and I'm just familiar. So I wonder if perhaps the staff could explain. I believe we have a process for applying for special events. So has that been submitted in? When does that normally happen? I wonder if that, I don't know if that's a question for staff or just so I can understand that process a little bit better myself.
I can share with Mayor O'Brien.
Yeah,
through.
If I may, Teresa, if I could just defer to our CAO.
Thank you.
Just to answer that portion of Councillor Beal's question, and then I'll
Thank you.
get back to your take on it.
Thank you. Through the mayor. So we do have a special event process, and typically we do receive the applications in January for the year. But this application, as was mentioned, there's been staff changes, so Teresa wasn't here then, but yes, we typically would receive these earlier in the year.
Follow up, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so typically it is in January. I'm also wondering though, there will be lights in the downtown. Like if, for instance, that portion doesn't go ahead, we do have plans from the city, from what I understood, to light up the area along Alberni. And I believe there will be some lights in Memorial Plaza, if that part can't go through this year. Because I'll be honest, I'm just wondering if it would make more sense for this. I mean, it sounds fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I wonder if it would be best to plan for submitting a request for this special event in January so that it could take place in in 2024. I just don't know that we have. I'm just not sure that it makes sense to push ahead when you've got such a short time frame, and there will be lights down there eventually, although it does sound good. And if I may carry on, I also understand that there has been some work done by the staff here in previous years on looking at a lighting plan for downtown. So I actually, is this too soon to put forth a motion? But I don't. Maybe not quite yet.
Let's
Okay.
let the
Yeah,
rest
let's
of
have more
council weigh in
conversation.
first, and then maybe we can look at
yeah,
that at that
okay.
time. Yeah.
So I
Thanks,
guess
Councillor.
I have a few questions about that. I'm just wondering how much work has been done with the staff to look at what is in existence in terms of a plan, because I would hate to see, we want a win-win and we want people to be efficient with their energy. And if there are plans that have already been worked out that could be in place for the downtown, if that would fit in with what you have in mind, or perhaps you have some other things in mind that could inform staff plans for the downtown area and create something that really works well for everyone and is the most efficient use of staff time and therefore resources. So that's a question that I have about your awareness of the plans for lighting in the downtown, and if you've worked with staff on that.
Thanks, Mary.
Go
Through
ahead,
to
Councillor.
Mayor
Right.
Brian. So a couple of comments. First is the lighting for Alberni Highway. We're aware because that's actually done through us. For Memorial Plaza, all we're trying to do for Christmas is to create not only for safety and security, but also some community involvement, right? So the event wasn't done in January because exactly Teresa didn't work for us. But also the trees right now are put up on all the buildings at Christmas. So instead of having that done, we want to put them in Memorial Plaza. So it is an event. I mean, there's kind of two parts. Is we want to do like Winter Wonderland. If, having the kids noon thing at New Year's doesn't go, well, the biggest part is we want to create a community involvement for people to go there, and it's lit up, and it's not only just for safety, but it's also for having something in Parksville for families to go to. And like, if you go to Ladysmith, like, I mean, maybe one day we'll be like that, but you know, what I mean, like lighting in a place for people to go. So we're not actually asking the city to do anything because, like, you know, we can get the lighting up, like we're buying the lighting, and the lighting can stay there all year. You know, the part right now, there's lighting there, right? Which we had done through to the city so that it was for security. So it's just hanging there. All we're saying is about moving it up 2 feet because this stuff hangs down. So that way for safety. And it's just going to be expanded to what is actually there.
Go ahead, Councilor Bill.
I wonder if we could hear from staff, if it's, if this timeline would allow for, do we have staff capacity to assist with this in the timeframe that's been presented? Because I do appreciate and I fully understand.
Is there a
that
motion on the
PDBA
floor right now, though? Are we discussing a motion or what? It feels like we're about to make a decision when we just have a delegation here.
No,
I
no.
was wanting to know from staff if that request is doable from a staff perspective. What would the implications be?
All that I suggest at this time, this is an information gathering session. Yeah, at this particular point. And before we ask, you know, for staff input on it, I think that as Councillor Grenz, you know, mentions, you know, it would be in reaction to a motion proposal, because we have 3 proposals as I see it here type of thing. So to try and even handle it today would be out of the question regardless. I would like to make sure everybody from the floor has heard this. Councillor Martin.
I always get the wrong button. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your support too. Teresa, thank you very much for all your contributions. I'm the liaison and I watch you. You're brand new. You've really made a big addition to us to support our community, and not just Memorial, but the whole community. From my perspective, when I was running for this position, I had many people ask me, where's the city center? You know, Qualicum's got this or whatever, you know. And I really looked towards this being a city center, because that was what I talked to the previous mayor about this. I think we need to do something, and the sooner we can do it in a gradual professional way, in any way that we can, I can support this. I'm full on. And thank you very much, both of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Grenz, do you have that?
Just have a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to the delegation. First of all, as a dad, I appreciate the dad joke of Winter Wonderland. So thank you on that one. The question I would have is, since we've already addressed some of the other questions that were in my mind about this, are you comfortable working hand in glove with our staff and other players in the community to make sure that this is a success and working together collaboratively?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Grenz. I've already been working really closely with staff, and I find them very helpful and very thorough about explaining to me what I can and can't do, which I do appreciate. And I don't foresee myself any issues working with the staff team. I just, if I may add one last thing. I have been working with the staff on this, and I have submitted the special event requests or applications. In all fairness, they were not, they were completed in such a way that caused some confusion. And again, that falls on me for not knowing. But we've cleared that up. And from my perspective, I don't see there being any challenges.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, mayors, for yourself. To Teresa and Tammy, thank you very much for all the work that you guys are doing around the downtown core, and as well as this Christmas idea. I don't know where it'll end up going, but I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I'd love to have you know, a Christmassy thing to take them to. I also think that when those high street buildings open up, and we'll see an increased population right downtown. I think we're going to see some big changes with regards to the vacant shops that you mentioned in your presentation. And I think we're going to see a big change as to how kind of popular that downtown area is that you're trying to get going. So thank you very much for all the work you do on it. I appreciate it.
Okay, so thank you, council. I have a couple questions and I'm going to break it down into two. Let's talk about the Winter Wonderland or Wonderland. Let's discuss this. I'm concerned with the ambitiousness of your project, you know, for the first time coming in so late in the game. And to answer your question, we don't have the staff capacity, quite frankly, because we didn't see this coming. We didn't know this was coming. So all of our staffing has already been decided like for the year, basically. And when we set our budget and so forth, and we, you know, like in the summertime, it's a little different when we have actually, you know, our students helping, you know, so we have extra staff on that time and, you know, the parks and that type of thing. Those are the people that would slide into areas like this. Well, they're not here anymore. So we're working with our winter staff right now. So we do not have capacity to help. I know you said that you're going to take care of all the installation and so forth. And I also appreciate the fact that you're involved with the existing lighting on Alberni, you know, with the white lights and the trees. And I believe you use a contractor anyways for that type of thing. Would you, just a quick question, would you be consider using the same contractor? Because I'll just back that up by saying I am concerned because recognizing there's two things. You're on Memorial Plaza, you're entering a union workplace. Okay, and you recognize that as well. But along with the union workplaces, you're actually dealing with people that are certified professionals. And our staff are certified professionals for what they do. And whether it's like calculating load on what, you know, what each one of the outlets will carry, you know, amperages and so forth, as well as safety and grounding and GFIs and everything else. They know the rules and so forth. But I can't say that you have access to these people because we don't have those people to be taken off something else because we don't have the people. Our people, you know, Parksville, we run a pretty fine line of our people. We have good people, but they're very busy. So I'm saying we could not provide that expertise. So my reason for the question is I am concerned that, you know, at one point, Teresa, you're so enthusiastic. You said, if you have to go down and put the trees up yourself, you will. And I get that. And I really do appreciate that. And, you know, it's reminds me of a Chevy Chase movie, but no, I'm not. Sorry, but reality is that there's more to it when we're talking in a public space. And the public space is, you know, I'm picturing, you know, like the extension cords and the load capacity. And then when we tried to have an event this last fall for, I'm not even sure what it was. And then we had a windstorm that came up, wind and rainstorm, and we had the event all planned and all the canopies that we had down there all decided to fly away. And that was with our staff putting it down. We're reaching for sandbags. We had to cancel the whole event because of nature came in and ruined our parade. And so I don't know what contingency you have for that because the wind whips through Memorial Plaza. We've seen it with what we've tried doing in the past, even with the different events we've done. And so I can see the Christmas trees all getting up and dancing across the street, and which just happens to be a highway, is Alberni Highway. And so I'm a little leery at this time because I see you, like I wrote down 7 trees and then 10 small trees, and it would be spectacular. It would be an amazing display, but I'm in my opinion, I think it's a little over the top. So I'm just throwing my comments out here. For a first time, maybe start it on a smaller scale the first time and then build up from there. The other thing is that you're creating an incredible display for downtown after hours when all your businesses are closed. Why are the people going to show up? Are they just going to come down and look at lights? They're not going to be spending any money because, quite frankly, you know, we've had this conversation. Many of our businesses in the downtown core are closed at 5 o'clock. And it's like, okay, But, you know, our light display, you know, is going to be most spectacular once it gets dark. I know in the winter, 4:30ish, it gets dark. So they have half an hour to get down there and to support our downtown merchants, which is, I'm thinking the goal here. We're not just like, you know, creating a place where people can go hang out and at nighttime. I'm not sure, but, you know, like my point being is that a lot of the businesses are not even open, like on a Saturday night, a Friday night. And so unless you're changing the hours of a lot of business. That's my other concern. If you what you're proposing with the different times that you have, like I forget what it was. It was a November 24th light up and so forth. And you're hoping you threw around figures like 200 people will be in attendance. But recognize that it's going to be nighttime. And so we know our public washrooms, you know, like here at the City Hall, PTC they're closed. There's no washrooms. Really, we have no washrooms other than what we provide in your businesses. And if they want to run down to the community park, which also closes. So do you have a provision for porta potties, you know, that are going to be there? Because people, you know, if they're going to come down and they're going to celebrate, they're going to have some cider and some juice or something, they're going to need porta potties. If you, when you say an event that's going to bring in 200 people, there's a lot of things that have to be considered. That when our events people get an application in advance, they say, do you have all the following provisions in place? And that type of thing. So I'm seeing there's quite a bit to it. So that's just on the lighting. If I can just talk quickly about the grant application now. The grant application, maybe I misread your application when I saw it. Are you suggesting a downtown revitalization or vibrancy study of your businesses that are in the area, like for the buildings and so forth? Or are you talking sidewalks, roads, alleyways, city parks? So you just like having a holistic view of the buildings with the attempt of, so it's not involving any Parksville property, land, boulevards, trees, anything like that.
Yes.
Thank you for that. So it's just your businesses.
Yes.
That answers a big question for me right there. I believe, and I was unclear about there's two proposals for lighting. One was lighting for Winter Wonderland with the trees, and then one was year-round lighting as well. And so that would be also in Memorial Plaza specifically. That's what you're hoping for.
It stays there.
Yes, it's a year-round. And so it's permanent lighting. And so you're not requesting any ask on that, so forth. So what do you even understand what that looks like? We'd need like a schematic to suggest what you're going to do. And like, you know, we're very protective of our elm trees. You know, so you got to be careful that we're not, you know, suspending off the trees, anything that's going to cause some damage. So, and which is good. And so I'm just giving you an idea what we're going to be expecting moving forward on this. But yeah, I think that's good. And like, you want to comment? I rattled on there for a bit, but go ahead. I know.
Just a couple of points to make, I guess. You mentioned that the businesses aren't open in the evening, so what's the point? We've got to start somewhere. And if we can prove to our businesses that people are coming, then maybe they will be open a little later. I can't guarantee that. But I can also say that if they're downtown, they're seeing downtown. And I know people that don't even know where the downtown is. So to have events that draw people into the downtown and encourages them to explore the downtown, I don't think is a waste of time. I think it's a chicken and egg thing. And I think this is a good start to encouraging our businesses to stay open a little later. I don't think there's anything wrong with a business association hosting events that entice people into downtown, whether they shop, whether the stores are open, whether the restaurants are open, people are coming down. As far as the year-round lighting. This lighting is going to be erected on a wire grid that is already there. The lights are already in Memorial Plaza, but these are a more robust lighting along with music. So the music comes on and the lights dance, and it really lights up an area that can be attractive to people who are looking for dark and dingy places. And so we're trying our best to, not just on Memorial Plaza, but even with our property owners, encourage the lighting up of dark and dingy places. So that, and I don't mean to sound, I really don't want to say that Memorial Plaza is a dark and dingy place, but what I am trying to say is that more light and music there, the more likely it is that it will welcome happy and joyful people into the plaza. The other piece that I just want to clarify, going back to the year-round lights, the company that we're ordering the lights from are from Victoria, and they will come up and either assist or do the installation of the lights. I recognize there is a union consideration. And so however that works out, we have people who really understand these lights ready to install them.
Great.
Did I miss anything?
You
Okay.
nailed it.
Okay.
And just going back to the Christmas lights, I was looking at my notes here, the Christmas trees and stuff. How are you going to prevent like the vandalism? You know, like what, like I know you suggested that you have a security firm possibly booked, but like it would be very expensive to have 24/7 security. Like, how do you stop, you know, what happens at
So,
nighttime?
so through to Mayor, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we're in the middle, we're putting together a security program right now for the downtown area
I heard
with all the
rumors.
businesses. So, we're signing in the last week, we've been signing up businesses. So they're going to be working from 10 at night till 6 in the morning in only the downtown core. So they're,
Okay.
so it's not going to be specific
Yeah.
to that.
But so that would be part of the
That
route-
would be part of
the
it.
routes.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing about the trees, if I may. These trees are put up every year and they don't blow away. And on top of roofs where they would be more likely to blow away. We've not seen any flying down the highway. So I'm fairly certain that the same person will be able to put the trees up so that they don't go anywhere.
Thank you. I'll take one. Councillor Bill. Yeah, I really think at this time we should think on this. Before you put through a motion, do you want to put through your motion, your suggested motion right now? Because Councillor Beal has a motion to speak to part of your delay here. Do you want to do it at this time in consideration, Councillor Beal?
If that's possible.
Put it on the floor and see how it
All
goes.
right, okay. Yes, and I do want to say, like, I love the idea really of the trees coming off the roofs and getting down, because a lot of people don't see them up there. Every year I would sort of count them and I would look for certain ones and see that, oh, there's a new one. So I have paid attention over the years, but I wanted to focus on the second ask, which was around the year-round lighting, and particularly understanding that staff in the past had also put together a report. And as you mentioned, that you certainly want to be working closely with staff and so on, that I do have a motion that I would like to bring forward for council. And that is that staff work with the PDBA and chamber to update the council staff report dated July 20th, 2020, which presented options for year-round decorative lighting displays for the downtown, including the community park, and report back to council as part of the 2024 to 2028 budget and financial planning process.
I hear a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Gore. Now, let's go back to Councillor Beal,
Uh,
your motion.
Okay, thank you. Because I actually think you're bringing this forward is really quite timely. We haven't gotten into budget considerations yet for 2024 and beyond. And I did know, like I say, that there was a report, although I hadn't seen all the details. I also knew that staff was quite enthusiastic about it. And I think that working together, then there could be hopefully a comprehensive plan and including a phase, however, if it needs to be phased in and how we can work together. So that is my hope that would that you would inform this and that this would be, the city would be of assistance to you in bringing this about.
And to be clear, this is specifically for the year-round lighting. One out of your three subjects today. Thank you. And Councillor Gore gets next second. No? Okay, then it will be Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question to Councillor Beal so there's a sense of urgency from the delegation. How does this work with staff with regards to their sense of urgency? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, if I may, thank
ahead,
you for the question. This does not address the request for something getting in place for November 24th. And again, I have some concern that can't be done, but it certainly addresses the request for year-round lighting, to have a plan for year-round lighting. And this could, I imagine, would come into being in the coming year. So it's separate from that first ask.
Yes, and as I understand it, the urgency is not on the year-round lighting. You weren't trying to get that done were you trying to get that done for the Christmas season too? The year-round lighting? Because that's certainly with this motion.
No, it would, so, I mean, the
Yeah.
Christmas lighting it really would just stay up. It's all programmable.
So
It's the same lighting.
it's color lighting change. Right,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, you can have it to music. So whatever you can have it to Valentine's or Halloween or whatever. And then also color. So it's
Okay.
all done.
I understand. So
On that.
for the year-round lighting is not necessary, but it's the same lighting as what you.
Exactly.
got
It just
that now.
would never come down.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Councillor Fraz, go ahead.
Thank you, through the mayor to council. I just want to make the comment that I really appreciate what the delegation is offering here. I think trying to bring some liveliness to the community is desperately needed, regardless if the businesses are open or not. I think getting and offering something for people to get out and walk around the community, especially at that time of the year when it's very dark days, I think it's a fantastic thing. They're not asking a lot from us. It's mainly just our support. I think we should do everything we can to get behind them to try to make something like this to go. Like, this is almost like a dream application coming forward for us. This, how long it would take for us to try to bring forward an idea like this. We have a group here. They're willing to do the legwork. They're willing to take the risk on. And, of course, there are things like the concerns of wind and the storms that we get. That's not going to go away. I think what we do with those types of things, we try to mitigate them best we can when they come forward. And sometimes you have to, rebuild and do things again. That's just the nature of having great things in our community. So I'm really supportive of it. My questions earlier about it being like if it was a loan or not was not to suggest that that's what we need to do. It was just for clarity if that's an option there. I think $15,000 is a small ask. I think I don't know where our council contingency sits at, but we could even offer forward out of our contingency.
I would ask for conversation just on the motion that's on the floor, Councillor Fraz.
Yeah, I
which
think
is just for the year-round lighting, the contingency was a different
I
issue.
think it kind of all speaks to the same thing that they're asking here too. So point being, whether it was this year or next year, I think any way that we can find opportunities to support them is, I think we should be considering that because it's a great benefit to our community.
Thank you. Councillor Grant, I read your mind.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to council. So personally, I see no issue with this particular motion, although the context of it is a little bit odd, I guess, if this is meant to kind of avoid other motions that would support what the PDBA is putting forward, which looks to me to be a good opportunity. So maybe that's a question then for Mary, if Councillor Beal wants to reply.
Yes,
If
go
I-
ahead, Councillor
If I
Brown.
may respond, that is not the purpose at all. I really saw when I looked at this, there were 3 asks there. So this is specific to the request for downtown lighting. And I would anticipate that there could be further thought, discussion, however it goes to the, let's say, for instance, a 3rd ask around, the grant application and so on. I see this as completely separate, but I thought it was one that one could hopefully fairly easily address.
And yes, and I see the merit to putting this motion forward at this time because it is turning into year-round lighting, but it has to be, as Councillor Beal has mentioned anyways, that it has to be in collaboration with what we already have as reports for a year-round lighting plan. Does this add to it? Does it change it? Or is it a new project altogether? So because we already have a report, so my understanding is that it's going to give us the opportunity to review the previous reports and actually get some staff input on it. So that's why I will be supporting this motion on the floor right now. Any further question? All those in favor of the motion on the floor? Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you. So I think we've got it, given us a lot to think about. That was a great presentation and we really appreciate it. At this point, we need to step back and we have to consider all sorts of implications, what that looks like for the city of Parksville now. And we will look at that. And if we can make something happen for it, all that I can say is it's rather short notice at this particular time, but I think that we have to check what we have to check in the background to see what's doable and what's not. And then we'll have to, I understand the urgency in the space, in the time, but I can't see us giving you a fulsome answer at this particular point. Thank you.
Thank you for the.
Thanks very
opportunity.
much. We have to move on now. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. We have another delegation up for today. Today we have the next delegation would be the Truffles Group for an application for non-medical cannabis retail at 389 Alberni Highway. Presentation by D. Strongatharm and K. Barbin of the Truffles Group regarding the business license amendment application to permit non-medical cannabis retail at 389 Alberni Highway. Thanks for joining us today. You have 10 minutes. Thank you very much. The little mic button, yeah, the little speaker face. Not quite yet. Just keep on pushing buttons. I'll tell you when you're on. Yeah. We shouldn't launch anything. We should be good.
And
You're
I'm
on.
assuming also going down Mayor O'Brien, I just hit the down arrow, right? Oh, here. I don't wait here. Okay, sorry, but Mayor O'Brien, members of council, my name is Hugh Strongatharm. With me is Keith Barbon, who is the CEO of the Truffles Group and Flight Cannabis. And we thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak on a matter that I know is under consideration later on in your agenda. Okay, sorry, what do we do here? Oh, there we go, I guess. What's the purpose? And again, you've seen it from the staff report, is to amend the bylaw, which currently restricts the location of a cannabis store more than or less than 200 meters from, in this case, a seniors care facility. You'll also note in the planner's report, however, that in terms of what this request is, it is consistent with the zoning. It is commercial zone, which does permit retail cannabis, but the business license bylaw has this 200-meter distance in terms of a restriction. I think if I can just carry on here, and I must be doing something a bit different. From the location, we do believe that the application does merit your serious consideration in terms of the location. As you can see, a bit hard to see, but it's on the corner of the Alberni Highway and Despard Street, which is obviously two main corridor streets and is bounded actually by a third street. So when you look at the actual Quality Foods shopping district, it really is buffered from any of the other activities that carry on. You can also see in terms of the location is that it is actually internal in terms of the front entrance to the cannabis store, adjacent to the retail liquor store beside. And so everything is kind of focused on the interior, not on the exterior in terms of people walking down the sidewalk, for example, along Despard. You actually aren't seeing any activities that are going, and it's all focused inward. And in terms of having the parking, it actually does serve in terms of checking off all of the things that would merit consideration for an amendment to the bylaw. Sorry. And just once again, I just would like to say that, when you look at that, that's actually a picture of the actual retail outlet, and you can see kind of the floor plan. And once again, you can see at the back along Despard, in terms of the sidewalk that's leading down Despard to the west, that there is no activity in terms of any concerns that there might be about looking into a cannabis retail store. So once again, just in terms of the location, really do think that it's served very well, combined with the fact that this is an area that is currently experiencing, and the plan asked for a high density residential development in a new residential neighborhood, or changing residential neighborhood very close to downtown. And so having a cannabis retail store that's servicing the now expanding neighborhood, I think merits favorable consideration. Sorry, going the wrong way. We did do neighborhood engagement. There are actually 3 signs up on the site on the 3 roads. We did send out to about 500 residents. Some of the apartments, we contacted the property managers and also tried to get invitations to the open house inside the apartment units, and then obviously to the other residential areas. Although the normal notice from the city, I believe, is 50 meters, we did a notice of about 200 meters circumference around the site. As mentioned, there was about 5 members of the public that attended the open house, and in the staff report and in a report provided with the open house, in terms of the responses that we received back from that open house process. In terms of the sort of specific issue at hand, I did contact early on in the process with Trillium Lodge, which is the seniors care facility, which doesn't meet the bylaw. And I also then, about 2 weeks or so ago, perhaps a bit longer than that, I actually met with Nicole Weber, who is the manager of Trillium Lodge. And prior to my previous notice to her about what was intention, she did contact her other senior folks from Island Health, and as mentioned here, and I think in the staff report, that they take no position. They're not opposed to it, they're not in favor of it, but we wanted to make sure that they were completely aware of it and left our contact information and obviously an invitation to the open house. So we tried to make sure that we were speaking to them in terms of the specific reason for amendment to the business license bylaw. With that, I'd just like to, sorry, I'm doing it again, just ask Keith just to talk a little bit about operations, about the Truffle Scoop, because I think obviously the one thing is about the retail store, the other thing about in terms of operations and management of it. So Keith, if I can turn it to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dean, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. My name is Keith Barbone. I represent the Truffles Group. I'll try and give a brief history just to give some color to who we are. We understand this is a sensitive application, sensitive use at times. It's a newer use that communities are getting used to. And I'd just like to speak to our experience as a group, but also our experiences with the 2 other stores that we currently operate. Truffles Group was founded over 30 years ago. Started as a catering company that still exists. We are a preferred caterer for Royal BC Museum, Royal Roads University, and have a large group of dedicated staff there. We've expanded into a tourist attraction, which is close to Butchart Gardens, called Victoria Butterfly Gardens, and also had a brew pub, and through that expanded into the retail liquor business, which we have Cascadia, which is situated on this site adjacent to the proposed store. We are currently around 400 or 500 employees, very diverse group. I just mentioned that because I understand the sensitivity around this, and to try and convey that Our goal is to maintain our brand, maintain who we are in the community, and try and gain some trust from members of the council that this use will be not a deterrent or not a non-complimentary use to the community. I'm just going to check my time there. We embarked in this business because we had landlords and employees approach us. We had the liquor retail stores. We were good tenants. We were good employers. And we started as one store just based out of a passion of some of our team. And I had concerns. You know, we have a licensing reputation with our liquor stores. We have about 20 controlled substance licenses that are heavily regulated by the province. And my immediate concerns are probably similar to what the concerns of the council may be, in that, okay, how do I make sure we do a really good job, that we don't get complaints from our neighbors, from the adjacent commercial tenants? And our experience is, it was surprising to me in that the disruption to the neighborhood, people loitering around, people consuming on site, is not an issue, and you probably see that at your other stores in the community. With respect to the specific location, we will have, you know, various security measures and signage, video surveillance, and we will be sensitive to the traffic route. We would like to work with the city. If there are some signage restrictions, our goal is to create a boutique. You can see from some of the images and some of the package we present, a very nice boutique store. If there are any concerns about visibility of traffic or children on that Despard side, as Dean said, that picture, there is some landscaping that's overgrowth. We would restrict signage on that location. It would be interior facing, and we operate the adjacent store. So it's in our interest to make sure the area is controlled and that we don't diminish the reputation of our brand. So I wanted to speak to that. From a local perspective, we do operate out of Victoria, but we do operate across Vancouver Island. We have quarterly charitable initiatives that we rotate. And we currently have 4 going on. And like I said, they will rotate quarterly. They're all, in most cases, local based to serve our community that we operate in, and to kind of support our employees that operate in that community. I think that's it for now, but thank you. Anything else, Steve?
No, I think that's fine. We are very mindful of the length of time we've spent with the 3 delegations. So we know you have a busy schedule. So we do thank you very much, Mayor O'Brien and Council, for allowing us to present this this afternoon.
Right. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I just have to comment first, you know, going through all your documentation about the response and so forth. You did a very robust neighborhood engagement process, more than you had to, you know, as per our specifications. 200 meters is nothing. And you had, believe, did you say 500?
About 500.
Yeah.
And again, whether 5, because some of them are in a fair as apartments, and we contacted the management company, and we were able, actually Keith,
Right.
able to get inside to post.
So I appreciate that, because, you know, our concern, you know, and my concern particularly was that you're coming into a neighborhood, you're coming into an existing neighborhood, and plus a very new neighborhood, you know, because there's a densification all around that area. So I want to make sure that these people didn't move into an area that they didn't expect this to be in their neighbors. And they didn't come back and say that they had any problem. In fact, quite the opposite it was. And so that was good engagement, and I appreciate you making that extra effort. The other aspect of your application is the fact that because you're coming into a denser neighborhood right now, you're going to prevent a lot more trips by automobile to or any other vehicle and so forth into another location. You're already running a successful, well-run liquor distribution as well. So you're preventing people from having to get in the cars and go. So you're helping us to achieve, you know, active transportation and lessening the amount of cars on the road. So I appreciate that from a strictly GHG perspective. And so that's a good thing to have in the neighborhood so that people can shop. So thank you for doing the extra, because that always doesn't happen. So I'm going to open it to the floor. Council Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the mayor. Both of you, thank you for your presentation. I was not aware of the background, your island company, but I am aware of the liquor store, and I have on more than one occasion been told what great employers you are, because you attracted some younger people that felt that they were being treated well. So I will compliment your company on that. Thank you very much.
Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to the delegation. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciated your mentioning of discrete signage. And I do understand that the building focuses inwards and towards a parking lot and so on. So I was wondering a little more, do you have specific plans for a sign along Despard? Because that is the area where I have some concern that I would like to see it, not be all, I don't want to see a neon flashing, and I don't think that would fit with your look, quite frankly, but I would like to see something very discreet or minimal or nothing at all. So I was curious what your plans were for signage along Despard.
Yeah, I think we wanted to work with yourselves or staff. We don't require any signage on Despard. It would obviously be nice, but we understand the sensitivities. We asked that maybe we could have a signage on the pylon and Alberni Highway. We advertise cannabis only in the name Cannabis Co. But there's no emblems or paraphernalia or any type of imaging. It's more meant to be a bit more of a refined location. And the ultimate goal is it is a new business. It is stigmatized to a certain degree, and it is opening up and expanding, but to try and reach those clients. And we think we have to do that in a very tasteful manner. So if there's any assurances or any covenants or anything with respect to signage on Despard, we understand. We also understand there's a little adjacent plaza between the pharmacy and us that we've spoken to the pharmacy as well. We operate in other malls beside pharmacies just to make sure that that area is controlled. Unlike liquor, cannabis is a little more strict. The licensing branch will enforce infractions against our license by things that people are doing outside of our business. So we have to control it, and it's very important for us to maintain that relationship with the branch and do a good job for the neighborhood and the community. But to answer your question, signage interior facing, and if we could have something on the pylon that just has our name on Alberni, we would sign any kind of covenant with respect to signage on Despard. Yeah.
Thank you. You're satisfied? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, and I'll just echo what our mayor mentioned. I have had concerns myself because we have an elementary school not that far from the proposed location. I did talk to the neighborhood. I have friends who live in the neighborhood. First of all, they didn't even realize that there was a sign up about like signage about the public notice for this cannabis store. But their concern has been with the apartments and the densification that has happened is most of these buildings are non-smoking. So most of the cigarette smokers are now out on the sidewalk. So their concern was like, now will we have cannabis smokers out on the sidewalk to deal with? But again, that's not something you can control. I just wanted to mention some of the concerns I heard from the community. And I'm not sure why they were not able to see the signage. As you mentioned, there are like 3 signs up.
Yes, three signs on, I'm going to mispronounce Moliere, sorry, and Despard and Alberni. Yeah, yes. And we did do the surrounding canvas, the surrounding area. I went to the buildings and ensured signs were posted. Yeah, with respect to smoking in the buildings, I think that's probably an issue that'll exist, whether there's a cannabis store close by or not. I would assume if people are consuming, they'll purchase elsewhere.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor, through yourself to the delegation. What I look for is respectful dialogue. That's what I ran on. And when I see you guys going beyond the minimums for, canvassing the neighborhood, to me, that is a really good sign that you are looking for feedback and that you care about the neighborhood and that you realize it's a sensitive subject. So I appreciate that you guys went above and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Grunz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And one quick question as well through the delegation. I'll echo the comments on the thoroughness of your work here in engaging the public, which we very much appreciate. I would appreciate, just for the sake of context, since you operate other businesses up and down Vancouver Island, could you maybe speak to what the process is in those other communities for both liquor and cannabis retail?
Yes, I'll try and go through some. Liquors a lot easier now. It's been around longer. As you know, this location is zoned for liquor. We could just expand a liquor store. It's a controlled substance and no one would, say anything. There wouldn't be any process. But liquor in most communities is site-specific zoning. So you go through a process for zoning bylaw amendments. Cannabis is a bit of a mix everywhere. They all have similar guidelines around distance criteria from schools, playgrounds, hospitals sometimes, or different community centers, things like that. If I had to go through, we've done a store in an IMO required a similar process to here. Ladysmith, we just got a successful application there. City of Victoria, we're doing one right now. Similar. What we're finding is a lot of the distance criteria that were put in place pre-legalization or just on the cusp, where there was a lot of insecurity around the use. And that what we're dealing with now is still that legacy of those policies from, say, 2017, 18. And what we're finding is I always get very nervous about coming to these types of things, and we're finding that the pushback is less than we anticipated, because we have a little bit of a track record with other stores in the community, and people are understanding that the implications on the neighborhood are less or nothing, and beyond what they expected originally back then. If that answers the question. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Is that it for questions? Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your
thank you very much.
presentation. Well done. Thank you. Council, we have one piece of correspondence on the agenda from the Island Crisis Care Society, a request for a temporary shower program at Orca Place. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendation that the correspondence from the Island Crisis Care Society dated September 11th, 2023, requesting temporary use of the showers at Orca Place between November 27th, 2023 and January 5th, 2024 be received. And part two, the council approved the temporary use of the shower facilities in the public area of Orca Place from November 27th, 2023 to January 5th, 2024 to provide continuation of this service to people experiencing homelessness, while the SOS shower program is closed for the holiday season. I have a mover and seconder for the correspondence, moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beal. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. I just run in ahead of myself here. Any comments? Would be Councillor Wood first. Councillor Fraz.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council. Last year, when this came forward to us, it was brought up as a one-off situation due to the trailing end of COVID. And previously, when they couldn't host the shower programs at the SOS, they had ran it at the Ravensong. So I'm not sure why this hasn't defaulted back to what they were doing previously, as it was mentioned as a one-off situation. Now it seems like it's going to become a reoccurring and ongoing type of situation. And so I think it should be reverted back to what they had previously done, on top of which, while it didn't particularly provide any direct issues there, that area, the Jensen Greenway, coupled with the temporary shelter program, the emergency shelter program was run nearby, and this area started to get a lot of activity, which still hasn't been alleviated. It's constant ongoing area concern. So my recommendation would be that they go back to the Ravensong model that they had previous to this. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's coming back as an ongoing request now.
Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate Councillor Frost's apprehension. But I would like to know, maybe our CEO can answer this. When last year this was done, did we receive any complaints from the neighborhood or any extra calls for staff having to deal with? How was it run last year in
Go ahead.
your perspective, sir?
Yes, CAO Kaler, go ahead.
If I may, through the mayor, I'm not aware of any, I don't know how it's run. It's nothing to do with the city. So I'm not privy to that information, but I'm not aware of any significant complaints. I would have to double check with Bylaw though, because they don't always come to me. But I don't recall them discussing any significant increase in complaints with me on this one, but I would have to check that before the meeting today.
Satisfied? Follow up? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Could there be an opportunity for, I know there's a citizen advisory committee that kind of looks after the workings of the Orca. Would there be an opportunity for them to be involved?
If I can intervene here, Councilor Gora, in the background information, they already contacted Island Crisis Care Society, already contacted the Citizens Advisory Committee for Orca Place, to which they responded. They had no objections to this opportunity. Councilor Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, although I can't speak to, it's an interesting question as to whether or not the Ravensong program was considered again. And I certainly don't know about that, but I was very relieved to see that the citizens group, the neighborhood citizens group had no objection to this. And also specifically that having this program there does allow for two additional staff members who are available to be on site. Now, I don't know if that was possible with the Ravensong program or not, but that did sound like a real added bonus that there were extra staff members there so that there was consultation and also that transition into the program. So I would like to support this, but I think it's a good question to ask whether or not that was considered.
I can speak from experience last year. I actually was monitoring the situation. And as you know, I walk around all the neighborhoods quite frequently. And I asked people that I run into all the time, citizens and residents and neighbors, was there any impact on them regarding the shower program? To which look, I got was like, what shower program? Like what? And I said, well, there's been, just during Christmas, I just mentioned that this program was in place. And nobody knew, except for people that had actually been consulted beforehand, and which actually I contacted quite a few people that did have concerns, and I let them know, and they actually had my home phone number to call me if there was any problems. They did not, and I asked afterwards if there was any problem. They said they had no issue with it at all. So I too was very concerned that it's a thin edge of the wedge, and I totally get that. But at the same time, there has been not one complaint of how it happened last year. And I'm not sure whether it was really regarding the pandemic or whether it was just the Christmas toolbox program at SOS had become so successful that they literally are putting their space for all the toys in the shower area that they have at SOS. And so they overflowed it. And so that was, I'm not sure that it was specifically to pandemic, regardless. And the other problem with Ravensong is a considerable distance. There are no other shower facilities that SOS continue to provide for all the rest of the time of the year. So it's a bit of a stretch, to get the people in our community up to Ravensong. I appreciate that it's better than nothing. But in this particular case, I believe that Island Crisis Care Society have demonstrated that they can operate it discreetly without problem and with proper coordination with their staff anyways, to make sure that there's no impact on the community. So I'm pleased with how it turned out. So I will be supporting this at this time. But Councillor Fraz, carry on.
Yeah, just the mayor, just a comment there. You mentioned about speaking to people out and around the neighborhood for some feedback there. I do believe that we have a representative at the community advisory committee from our staff that attends our meetings, which we would normally get some reports back I think that would be good to be able to get some feedback. We shouldn't be left wondering how the successive programs are. We should be able to get that direct information back from them and know, instead of being left wondering, have to talk to people in the streets to see. So perhaps that communication just is kind of faded away, probably because of, nothing coming up out of it that's been too much of an issue. My, for lack of a better word, concern come forward there is just that it was brought forward as a one-off type of a thing. And now it's, as you mentioned, like thin edge of the wedge, now it becomes a continual thing. I just see that progressing into, okay, then what are we going to see next year and how is it going to grow? And, there's no commitment that, while it's a timeline here of to January 5th, that, where does it go from there? I'm not surprised if it comes back as a bigger ask, as a longer, a broader time frame and more to it. And, things like when we hear concerns too, that even though it's not operating as a soup kitchen there, that residents are taking out extra meals or coffees and that to start handing out to people out there. It kind of acts as a de facto soup kitchen in that regard. And then, so I do see this kind of expansion beyond what the agreement was in place. And that's where my concern is going, hey, if this was a one-off thing, then respect the fact it was one-off. And so that's why I bring that forward, that I think they should maybe go back to Ravensong and then come back again next year then instead and ask, so that there's some proof that it's a one-off thing.
Yes. Any further discussion at this point? Councillor Grant.
Perhaps we could amend the motion to request that the service provider provide a written report to council by the end of January that would outline details about utilization and recommendations, as well as alternatives to consider in the future. Something along those lines. Would that satisfy Councillor Fraz's concerns?
I'm going to speak to that then. I mean, I think that should be a given regardless. I don't know why we didn't have that before. The fact that we have a city rep on the community advisory committee, I think we should be getting that. I don't think it needs to be included as a motion, and no, it wouldn't change anything for me. I think we should be having that already. We shouldn't be left having to wonder. But even before, when Orca Place first came in to operation, we were asking for some feedback on how things are going, and it's just kind of faded away where we don't get any of that anymore. So it definitely should be included, but it wouldn't make a difference to me.
If I can maybe refer that to our CAO, Kaler, for further clarification.
Thank you, if I may. So I'm not sure that they meet very regularly. I believe it was only once or twice a year. And looking at the July date, we have one staff person who had been attending and they were most likely on vacation at that particular time. But they have not been meeting very frequently at all. And so I believe when they do attend, they send out a quick update. Even I saw one recently that was, or within the last little while, that was like, there was no real topics of discussion. I think only one person showed up. But I'll certainly follow up again and just see what, maybe if we can get a time of when they do meet, so we could let you know the frequency. But my recollection from discussing this with the staff person that does attend is that they are down. I believe at first they met monthly, then it was quarterly, and then once every 6 months. And now I believe it might just be an ad hoc. And from what I'd heard, there just wasn't a lot of attendance at some of the recent meetings. So.
As I was told, it was on as is and when needed basis. It wasn't just every 6 months anymore. And, it's basically like no news is good news in this particular case. So, and CO Kaler nailed it. There was no attendance, that have a meeting and no one showed up. Go ahead.
And through the mayor to council, I just want to make a comment. I appreciate the willingness to try to satisfy me and making it work and getting my approval on this, but council doesn't need my particular approval of it. It's a council decision amongst all of us. So I'm trying to be here to provide some perspective. You may not agree with it. You might agree with it. And at the end of the day, it's the council's will as a group of us. So, I know that we always try to come to where everyone agrees on things and that, but it very often is where we don't agree. And I think that's completely fine and probably, better that we have some contrary perspective so that we can make a balanced decision. So I thank you, but it's okay if we don't agree on it.
Yeah, and I would just comment, consensus is nice, but it's not necessary, and I agree. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a lot of people, wondering about what was going on at the Orca Place and, you know, like you said, no news is good news. I haven't had any negativity, like ICCS has been a very good provider. And so that to me says, you know, I know the shower program is held because they're doing it. So we didn't hear any problems like we've gone around the circle here. So that's just my comment. No news is good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like us to,
Sorry, Councillor Gore.
thank you. I would like us to consider the amendment. I am willing to second it. As proposed by Councillor Grant.
Sure. Seconded by Councillor Gore. As your amendment, could you put it in the form of a motion again, Councillor Grant?
So the current second clause of the recommended motion is that council approve blah, 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 blah. And at the end of that, we would add something along the lines of, and that the service provider submit a written report to council. And I suggested end of January, but we could January 31st, 2024, with details about utilization, learnings and recommendations of the program, as well as alternatives to consider in future years.
You okay with that? To second? Thank you. Okay, Councillor Grant, do you need to speak any further on it, or does that hold us on?
Well, I'll just add the one point, thank you, Mr. Mayor, is that I put this forward not just actually to put Councillor Fraz's mind at ease, but it also, I think, would be fitting with an overall goal of making sure there's a level of understanding of what actually happens when we make a decision here, and what and that can come back to us with some feedback, which we did get the letter from ICCS, but it's not very specific and it doesn't address the questions that have come up around this table. So if we can ensure that in future years it does, and that we have more information next time, if there is a next time, to be able to make a decision that's a little bit more informed.
Thank you. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with this amendment. I was going to ask earlier if a simple request that a report of sorts be presented later on, that would be fine. I would like to go back though, and no, I'll say that later, because we've got the amendment and then we'll have the main motion. Thank you.
Right. So is there any further discussion about the amended motion? So the amended motion will take the place of the other motion, just with the addition of Councillor Grant's addition. Yeah, the amendment, that's what I'm saying. That's what we're doing right now. Okay, all those in favor? That is unanimous. Now, we'll go back to the original motion. And now you speak to the original motion.
Yes, thank you.
As amended.
Oh, as amended. Yes, that's fine. I would just like to speak to Councillor Fraz's comment earlier that this was presented when it came out as a one-off. And I guess my understanding of it at the time was slightly different. It was recommended that it would be for that period because they really didn't know 100% how well it would go, although they had a lot of discussion, I think, between ICCS and SOS so that it would go smoothly for everyone involved. So my understanding was that was presented as such because it was going to be a new situation for them. And so they didn't want to come and just say, well, have it forever. You want to assess how things went. So I don't see it as being a total contradiction that they would then come back with it, seeing as how it was a success and that there were no complaints, and that the citizens group also supported it in their meeting of, what was it, July 16th. So that was my understanding.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call the question on the amended motion. As amended. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Fraz opposed? Thank you so much. Yes. We're going to call a comfort break right now, a 5-minute comfort break. We'll reconvene at 3:10. is to read the successful award of the grants, please. Thank you, Councillor Franz.
Okay, thanks. So myself and Councillor Wood, we met recently to discuss this grant and aid. As I think everyone knows that the allocated amounts were increased recently as well. So there were $7,500 available. But we went through the list, and as it's broken down there in front of you on the table, these are what we had come up with as our suggestions for various reasons on there. So I'll move the recommendation as they're written in the report. And if there's any seconder, then any questions we can discuss.
Fine, thank you. And moved by Councillor Franz, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any further discussion or questions, Councillor Franz? Anything further to add?
All I would say is, I'm happy to see also Inclusion Parksville on there. As you mentioned, it's the month of inclusion coming up here. They had a small ask, but we were happy to offer them the full ask that they had.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I did have a couple of questions. One, typically I do have a lot of respect for the job. I know that, looking at asks from various nonprofit volunteer organizations in our community, it's sometimes a challenging one. And I was a little surprised to see that there are additional funds that were still available at the end. That's somewhat unusual, but at the same time, not unheard of. But my question is that given that there were additional funds available, did the letters that were sent out to the unsuccessful applicants include an explanation as to what criteria was not met? I think it could be helpful for them in the future, whether they're applying for grants with us or if it was with the RDN or whatever. But I just wondered if in general terms, if there's, like I say, an explanation as to where they went against the criteria or did not miss. And so that's a question that I have.
I can address that quickly, and then I'll go to the committee member that worked on that. That would be setting a precedent, advising what the committee has already discussed it in the committee meetings. I don't think it's necessary at this particular time. I think if the applicant wanted to maybe meet with a committee member afterwards, and suggested that, is there something that they could do differently for an application process? Maybe that wasn't adhered to, maybe more appropriate, but for us to just send out a report as to why we did or did not choose that particular one, I think that's a precedent we don't want to follow. Unless Councillor Franz.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great explanation, but as well, it also doesn't guarantee that applicants, if they, did certain things that the future applicants are guaranteed to be awarded. Largely, these grants aren't meant to be core funding. So if there's repeat applicants year after year, because we get the histories on if they were awarded last year, then it allows us to lean a little bit more heavy to other groups who maybe had smaller asks or weren't quite awarded as much. And as far as there being money left over too, my opinion too, when we go, it is we increase the amount to allow for some overages of our core funding that we had before, but not to always be spending out the max amount. Otherwise, then it goes, hey, we've spent the max amount, maybe we need to increase it again, and so on. So I think staying under that budget, personally, for me, around 80% of the total sometimes is a good target to be with. But as I mentioned too, for some groups, so why they didn't get it, that's what we discussed at the committee meeting, and to give our best recommendations forward. And it includes sometimes the recent past funding that they've had.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Franz. Councillor Beal.
Thank you. I just asked, I know that in the past, when I've been tasked with that responsibility as well, that in some cases we didn't have, people did not meet all of the residency requirements or that sort of thing, depending on, or that it wasn't a specific project, it's not operational. Again, not getting into all of the details, but I was curious to know if they get a general idea as to, or as you say, if there is something in there that if they would like further information, they can contact the office to have a discussion about that. So I was just curious about that, given that we did have additional funds this year. And I realize that it's only this year, and so I don't believe that they're carried forward.
Thank you. Any further comments? I'd like to call the question. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, council. Number 4 on reports, we have the Director of Community Planning and Building, a follow-up report, consideration of a new non-medical cannabis retail store at 389 Alberni Highway to consider advancement of an application for a retail cannabis store. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations as noted? Would you like me to read them, or are you okay? You all have the report in front of you? Okay, thank you. I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations as noted. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Grants. Any discussion? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just quickly say a few words here. Yes, previously I have voted against this with the concerns that were brought forth by members of the council, and I agreed with their concerns. However, I'm quite satisfied with the presentation today and reading the analysis from the staff. I think we have a bylaw in place. And these folks have done a fine job of interacting with the community to get their feedback. I have personally reached out. I have not really seen any outstanding opposition to this from the public. I would like to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with Councillor Gore because I was very not wanting another one of these stores in our community, but I can see that this is a very established company and they've done their due diligence and they will abide by the law precisely. So I would support this motion too. Thank you.
Any further comments? None at all. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries, opposed by Councillor Franz. Thank you. Another report from the Manager of Administrative Services, 2024 to 2033, the Nature Trust of BC permissive taxation exemption, to seek council direction on permissive taxation exemption for the Nature Trust of BC for the years 2024 to 2033. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendations as noted? Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Martin. Discussion. Councillor Gore.
I'm sorry, no comments.
It's okay. Did you? Sorry? Okay. I thought you were looking at that your battery was dying on you there. Okay. No discussion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Under bylaws to reschedule a public hearing, this time to reschedule a public hearing for zoning and development amendment bylaw 2022, number 2000137. For the map amendment to regional high density RHD4 at 413 Wembley Road. Do I have a mover or seconder to do the recommendations as noted? Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any errors or omissions or comments? All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. We're moving here to the bylaw for council procedure amendment bylaw 2023. We have had a suggestion from the floor to change this. This is for the meeting limit comment. So we'd like to amend 2.3 to add the word unanimous before resolution. So what this would be, it would have to be when requested to go longer than 4, that request would have to be met with unanimous consent by all of council. Understood? Great. So I'd like to change the amendment to require unanimous decision to go beyond time limit. To change that, so I believe we have to go to the amended resolution first before we go to third reading.
Yeah, so if I may, through the mayor, so we need to amend the bylaw on the agenda to add that word that you mentioned before resolution. So we need a motion on that. And then we would consider, council would consider reading it 3 times as amended.
Thank you. So could I have a mover and a seconder to amend that motion? Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Fraz. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Now we'd like to go to 3 readings for it as a amended motion with the word unanimous put in. So do I have a mover for the amended motion? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Gore. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. And thank you for that, Councillor Fraz. Bylaws, 3 readings. We have a business license amendment bylaw 2023 number 1551 for a site-specific cannabis retail amendment for 371, 383, and 389 Alberni Highway. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that the business license amendment bylaw 2023 number 1550 be read 3 times? Movers, moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any discussion? All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Moving on by bylaws for 3 readings, permissive taxation exemption bylaw 2023 to 2032 number 1588 for the 2024 to 2033 permissive tax exemption for Nature Trust BC at 130 Shelley Road and 200 Corefield Street. Do I have moved or seconded for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any errors or omissions or discussion? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. 3rd reading for the zoning and development amendment bylaw 2023 number 2000.144, the map and text amendment to CS2 at 1170 Resort Drive. Mover and seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Grenz. Any discussion? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question to our Director of Planning if he's online.
I will. Thank you. A question for Mr. Russell, if you would, please. Go ahead, Councillor.
Hello, Mr. Russell. This is about this 1170 Resort Drive. I was looking at the OCP and the zoning in the area. So within the OCP, it falls under resort lands, correct? So what I've noticed, the other resorts in the area along the Resort Drive, the south side properties that they have are zoned resort areas, RA1, and the south side on the other side of the road, they are CS2. So this will be a little anomaly if you look at the other properties in the area. So why is RA1 not appropriate zoning than in CS2 on this one?
We have no microphone.
Can you hear me?
We do now, yes.
Okay. So in the case of this property, a portion of it is already zoned tourist commercial. And so this is just making the one property have the same contiguous zoning across the entire property. The other zones you speak to are essentially customized versions of the tourist commercial zone that are customized for some of the properties on the highway.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments? All those in favor? It carries unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Third reading for zoning and development amendment bylaw 2023, number 2000.147, text amendment for residential care. Do I move or second for the recommendation? Councillor Beal. Seconded by Councillor Grans. Any comments? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. 5, bylaw rescind of third reading and third readings as amended for the permissive tax exemption bylaw 2023, number 1587 for the 2024 permissive taxation exemptions. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation as noted? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. There are 2 notices of motion on agenda brought forward today for your consideration due to time restraints here. The Parksville Volunteer Fire Department grant application. I would like to propose the following motion, if I may. If you would like me to read it, I will do so for those on the video. Do I have a mover? I am the mover, looking for a seconder for the recommendation that staff be authorized to apply for the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Volunteer and Composite Fire Departments Equipment and Training Grant in the amount of $34,825.79 to provide a rescue support stabilization system. And that part 2, the council support the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund application by the Parksville Volunteer Fire Department for a rescue support stabilization system and agree to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Wood. Thank you. Is there any further background that you need council to consider this before I call the question? You have it in your information package. Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. I have another notice of motion regarding that for the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for Disaster Risk Reduction, a climate adaptation grant application. So I'm moving that the staff be authorized to apply for the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Disaster Risk Reduction Climate Adaptation Grant in the amount of $42,402 to provide funding for an Arrowsmith Dam inundation study. And part 2, the council support the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund application by the City of Parksville to complete an inundation study for the Arrowsmith Dam and agrees to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Gordon. Any further discussion, council? Councillor Gordon.
Thank you. Can you give us a little background in about this study and how will it fit into the water study that City of Parksville will be doing?
Sure. This funding would allow the City of Parksville to complete a dam breach study for the Arrowsmith Dam. This study will include a flood-induced dam breach scenario, not included in the previous inundation study completed in 2014. This project will include data collection, site inspection, hydraulic assessment with data from nearby climate stations, estimate of the probable maximum precipitation, and climate change adjustment. The hydraulic assessment would be completed in 2 parts, an estimation of breach parameters and the consequential breach outflow hydrograph and breach outflow routing and resulting inundation. The application deadline is October 6, 2023, which explains why it wouldn't be included in any forward-moving comprehensive water study. This is for an immediate grant application that's available funding now to do the inundation study. That is why it's coming forth today. Any further questions? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Any other notices of motion? Yes. Counselor Gower, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to put forth a motion for the next meeting that council appoint the council appointments to the boards and the liaison positions be done on a rotational basis.
Thank you. Got it. Excuse me, I'm just writing as fast as I can. Thank you. Got it. We have liaison reports. Sorry. You have a notice of motion too. Sorry, Councilor Press.
Yeah, thanks. It's more dealing with, I guess it would be a new business, but on a item off our delegation from earlier this evening or this afternoon. My understanding is usually at the end, we could have a new business to bring forward motions on things that we've had previously. And if not, then I can bring it forward as a notice of motion, but because there was 3 asks regarding the PDVA on their delegation there, I felt we kind of left a few of them where we didn't touch on them. And so I wanted to put forward a motion about council supporting the grant application so that they could advance with that step for themselves.
Would you like to put that on the floor for today?
So if I can bring that forward as a motion, considering that we had a delegation, then that's what I would do, so that council provide a letter of support for the PDBA. I believe it's the Rural Economic Diversification Infrastructure Program application.
Seconded by Councilor Wood.
And
Yeah, discussion, I believe you've
Yeah, so-
covered it unless you want to fill it in.
basically, it's just that they mentioned they had a tight timeline there, and I think, that what they brought forward, I thought was a great program. I'd like to see them still be able to advance it. I know that it's going to take a little while to put forward a grant and then get some feedback on it. They did ask about $15,000, but perhaps we could look at that later on down the line too, once they have their application for their the grant in order. And maybe it might come from a council contingency based wherever we are at the end of the year. But I think a letter of support would just help them keep advancing it and then be able to engage the property owners that they need to speak to as well to get their support. So.
We're requesting a letter of support at this time. Yes, I can certainly support that. Yes, Councilor Grant.
And thank you. That's through you to council. Sounds like this is probably an easy support. But there was an opportunity recently where the Minister of Jedi was in town and did promote this particular fund. And I think the fact that the PDBA is seeking to apply for that fund is excellent, and we should support that. And the $15,000, of my understanding, is more of a way for us to pledge the city's support as a bit of an indemnification against any cost overruns. So if that's something we could include in the letter of support, I think that would be great as well. Like, we wouldn't actually need to allocate the funds from what I understand. We just need to be willing to, nope, we'd have to allocate the funds. Okay, question through to staff.
CEO Kale, if you could reflect on that, please.
Thanks. If I may, through the mayor. So we have to allocate the funds or not allocate the funds. We can't kind of conditionally think about it. So I don't think there's enough in contingency, but I'd have to double check that. But you can go over in your contingency like that. We just amend the budget for that purpose. I'm still not clear what the $15,000 is actually for. So I'd probably need some guidance from council on what you're allocating that money for.
I think we actually don't need that, and that's not even really in the motion, right? So yeah, maybe I sort of ventured into territory that we don't need to go into.
Yeah, I think it could be fleshed out later on. Anyways, I think the important thing is to get the letter of support for the grant application this time, and then we can work out the details and whether we want to go over contingency or whether we want to pull it from another source. But that's for a question for another day. I think the urgency is, as Councilor Frost mentioned, today. So I think, yeah, it's good. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Frass. I was feeling a little bit like, oh, we didn't really talk about that particular part of the ask, and that did concern me as well. I guess I'm still a little bit confused or not clear as to what the grant application is actually for, but I understand it is specific to the business buildings. And I'll just explain that one thing in the back of my mind is that we also have a plan to be looking at the downtown area and also our OCP. And I just wonder how all these things intersect. And I'm hoping that they will be supporting each other. And so that's my only wonder, and not knowing details about what the grant is for. I just have a little hesitation there, but a letter of support for this, and hopefully an opportunity for our staff to see a little further what this grant application is for, then, I'm prepared to support that. But I feel like there are a lot of unknowns at this time about this, but also really excited by the enthusiasm and the vision that our Downtown Business Association has to make some effort there.
I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Sorry, can we just clarify, what is the motion now?
No, it was just as Councillor Frass presented, and Councillor Frass, could you read your motion again, please?
Yeah, it was that council provided a letter of support for the PDBA's grant application to the Rural Economic Diversification Infrastructure Program.
A letter of support. That's what we're voting on there. Yes. Thank you. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Let's move into liaison reports. Okay, we'll go back to alphabetical. Councillor Beal, you get to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief. I have met with as a liaison to the Oceanside Community Arts Council, and they have been working on finalizing their strategic plan, which is pretty much ready to go now. Also an update, I think a thank you to go out to the city for a letter of support for the Wurlitzer project. As it was mentioned, unfortunately, that project will not be going forward here in Parksville. At the end of the day, it was decided by that it will be going to Cowichan Valley. So we'll have to travel a little bit farther to see some of this artwork. It won't be coming here to Parksville, which is too bad. Moving on, if I may, to the regional library, the budget was adopted quite recently, and some information did go out regarding that. We will be seeing an overall increase of 3.4% above this year's levy going forward in the coming year, which is still less than many other areas. And along with that, there is further information that's going out to our finance department to really explain all the details about how the budget. There has been some changes with how things are organized within a budget process, so that it's more in line with how local governments organize their budgets. And also with the library, there's a new strategic plan, which will be released quite soon, a little bit later this month. I've also attended the Chamber of Commerce meetings, the advisory design panel, and along with Councillor Frass, the Phil St. Luke meeting. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Beal. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Parksville Museum, the last day of the season is this Monday, October 9th. But there's availability of rentals throughout the fall and winter season, particularly church weddings. Last December, there was a wedding that people flew in from all over because their parents were married there and they wanted their children or grandchild to be married there. So people do rent that church for weddings, and it's wonderful because there's a place you can have a reception in the boardroom and everything. So it's very feasible. And there is a manager that's is hired part-time all winter. So she'll be available to organize these things. it's quite a board to run that place. The board can't do everything, you know? Anyway, and the artisan market is on Fridays from 5 to 8 for the rest of the month. And on the 27th, there's going to be a trick or treat event for the children in the buildings. So on the Friday, from 5 to 8, there'll be trick or treats in all the buildings, the heritage buildings around the village courtyard. They also, this last year, there was, I mean, amazing volunteers that I mentioned it last time that they had 24 volunteers that do the gardens, and these volunteers were able to do only once a month each. And this worked out at a savings of $9,000 for the museum. And that was organized. So they're doing a volunteer appreciation event on October 12th for these folks. And I think this is an example about how with volunteerism and balancing out things with all our organizations in our community makes Parksville a better place. Now, the PDBA, I thought after them having a delegation today, I didn't need to make a presentation or anything. So that's all I have for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Anybody else with any liaison reports at this time? Councillor Fraz, under the liaison, would like to do a report on UBCM.
Councillor Gore, thank you.
Councillor Gore, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not really a liaison, but
There you go.
Just a few words. It was my most of our council members' first UBCM convention, Union of BC Municipalities. I think I want to give a special thanks to our staff for organizing our stay and also organizing our meetings with the different ministers that we got to meet. This was my first time actually shaking hands with the ministers from the BC provincial government. But again, as a council, I think we were very solid advocating for the issues that we face at this level. And I was really pleased to see that 3 of our resolutions getting passed at UBCM, Councillor Wood, about the tax credit for firefighters, the RCMP tiers, and also the third one about protecting the habitat in Oceanside, the 30 by 30. So again, a special thanks to all our staff members, and at the same time, congratulations to Councillor Wood for getting elected as Director at Large at UBCM. I think it goes a long way for a small community like ours to have the privilege of somebody representing us at the provincial stage. And I hope, and I'm pretty confident he'll do a great job advocating for our city. Thank you.
Hope he's buying you dinner. I hope he's buying you dinner. Thank you so much. Councillor Wood.
I'll just quickly add, Mayor, that council as well did a great job in our what's called speed dating with the meetings with the ministers, meetings with Island Health. I thought we did a really good job, especially for a lot of our first time. And I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's it for the liaison reports. Now I'd like to have a mover and seconder for the recommendation that pursuant to section 91E and K of the Community Charter, Council proceed to a closed meeting to consider items relating to the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements and negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service. I have a mover, seconder for that, Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Beal.